When I say that, I mean I don't really believe that he can keep up a good level of play even as a game manager all season. But the defense is good. They can run the ball well. They got a couple of guys who can kind of sort of make plays after the catch, and I use that loosely. So Titans, they got the early lead in the division, 2-game lead, but beware of Kerry Collins because he might let you down at some point. I mean, he would let people down in his prime, and he's old now. Giants Bengals, good game. I actually got to watch this whole thing. Um, kind of hard to pinpoint any one particularly interesting thing to talk about. Eli looked good. They ran the ball well, but where was Jacobs? I was getting sick of not seeing Jacobs and Ward and Bradshaw. I have Jacobs on a fantasy team, actually. But enough of my selfishness. It was a good game. It was actually came down to the end, and I don't really believe in extrapolated stats in the NFL. So I think that if you win, you're good. If you lose, you're bad. And ultimately, people don't really remember how much you won by, or how you won. The only thing that really matters is that you did. Ultimately. So they won. So I'm not going to take anything away from them because they went to overtime against the Bengals, and they needed the Bengals to screw up their 2-minute drive at the end. That's really not relevant because they won the game, and if you win the game, that's good for me. That's good enough for me. And Bengals, very much a mess. And Palmer is just getting beat up back there to the point where you feel bad for him. He was actually had a bloody nose at one point in the game. He was just bleeding all down his jersey, getting destroyed by Kiwanuka. Kiwanuka was a first-round pick for a reason. They can still get to the quarterback. People forget about Kiwanuka. He was a first-round pick. And then at the end, he just takes like 20 seconds to call a snap in the hurry-up offense. And that's the story of the Bengals this year, I guess. So they played valiantly, but they had to win this game, and they didn't. They were desperate. It didn't come through. So they lost bad. And that's all anybody's going to ultimately remember. Dolphins, Patriots. I kind of wanted to get this game. It did not happen. I'm probably not going to get to watch it because it wasn't competitive, but I've seen enough of it to know, well, I think some people might be talking a little too fast here. It's 1 week, it's one game, and Miami always plays New England competitively, but watching this game, you just got the feeling that the air had been let out of the tires for New England. And Cassell, we finally saw the wheels come off him, as we knew they would at some point in the season, if he was ever under any particular pressure to perform. He cannot throw the ball deep. He's throwing checkdowns to Wes Welker every other play, not finding Randy. And what do you think's going to happen when you can't throw deep? It's the same thing that happens to the Bears when they have Kyle Orton in there. And last week the Jets could not stop the little stupid screen passes that the Pats kept running, and that did them in. Dolphins stopped those screen passes, and the real story here, besides Joey Porter getting 3 sacks, forcing a fumble, playing a great game, yeah, you had a very good New England defense. Ronnie Brown, it wasn't enough that he had to, run, pass, run the offense like he did and do it so well, because he did an awesome job. He had to look awesome doing it. I mean, if you get a chance to see some of Ronnie Brown's highlights, definitely do it, because there was this one touchdown run, the 15-yarder, where he was at the goal line, could have just walked in, but instead decided to go bash right into Ellis Hobbs just because he could. And you gotta like that mentality, especially for a team like this that needs that. And watching him run the wild hog offense, which is, what they were running, the same thing that Darren McFadden used in college with Felix Jones. He was like Darren McFadden, and Ricky Williams was like Felix Jones. They just looked awesome. They looked confident. They looked like a team toying with the other team almost. It was great. Great job by them. I'm serious. And he was running over people. He looked like Frank Gore in this game. Actually, that's what he looked like. He was a monster out there. So you gotta love something like that. And Pennington is the underrated element of this game. He went 17 of 20, went out and played wide receiver and threw blocks. Pennington played awesome as well. Cardinals, Redskins, close competitive game. Some big plays, some good drives, a couple of turnovers forced. Good little back and forth action, and ultimately it was a turnover that sealed the deal. Deflection in the air, and Carlos Rogers made a great play on that interception. I think some people undervalue that a little bit. That was a difficult play to make, and then he gets up for the return, and well, there you go. And again, it was a good game, and neither team has anything to be ashamed of. But Arizona, they had the ball at midfield. There's 150 seconds left in the game. They got 3 timeouts. It's 4th and 4, and they punt it down a touchdown, and they never see the ball again. So somebody's going to have to explain that to me. I know technically it was 4th and 20 or 4th and 10. Kick it, punt it, go ahead, take your chances. 4th and 4, you go for it, and you got to do that. The Cardinals do not have an elite defense anyway. Speaking of defenses that are not elite, Saints and Broncos. Offensive, high-power shootout, really entertaining game to watch. Jay Cutler continues to blow me away. Cutler is just balling straight out of his mind this year. Looks like the Broncos really won that 2006 draft. I think they got a Dumerville, Scheffler. Did they get Brandon Marshall? I don't think so, but they might have. They might have gotten Brandon Marshall too. So, great offensive assault by the Broncos. Even though they don't have one really good running back, they are making it work. And maybe they're the luckiest 3-0 team in NFL history. I don't care. It's better to be lucky than good sometimes. Defensively, they got a lot of things to work on, obviously. And it's disconcerting that a team that has corners like Champ Bailey and Dre Bly could allow things like this to happen. So just scratch your head. Where is Elvis Dumerville? When's he going to start making sacks? Where's Jarvis Moss? DJ Williams, linebacker. He can't do it all by himself. He needs help. Saints, second tough loss in a row. And is New Orleans where kickers go to die here? Is New Orleans where kickers go to die? Think about it. John Carney, they let him go. It didn't work out for him. He missed that huge extra point a couple years ago. He's gone to the Giants this year. He's playing great. Last year they had Olindo Mare. He didn't work out. He was awful. They cut him. He comes up here to Seattle, playing awesome. Hasn't missed a kick yet. And now they got this Grammatica guy who misses a couple of big field goals for him. And I was watching NFL Primetime, and they were saying that I guess the holder was wearing a ring and a watch, and maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. You'd have to ask the kicker. So, either way, Saints really need to find a good kicker. They need to draft themselves a Nick Folk or a Matt Stover one of these years. And, tough pill to swallow. But the Saints did look good offensively. Bush, looking good. All that. So, they'll be back. They're too explosive. Niners, Lions, pretty much what I expected. I'll give credit to Mike Martz. He ran the ball against his old team, the team that complained about him not running the ball. So he said, okay, fine, I'll run the ball, and looked awful good. Again, there's not a lot to say here. It's pretty much what you expected. O'Sullivan continues to impress. You wonder, is he going to come back down to earth anytime soon? He's playing well. He is playing well, and in a world where guys like Tony Romo can become Pro Bowlers, and guys like, I don't know, think of all the successful undrafted and low-drafted quarterbacks in the league. Tom Brady, Jake Delhomme, all that. Anything can happen, so we'll see where he goes. As for the Lions, historically futile. They won't go winless because their offense is too explosive, but you gotta just scratch your head and wonder how a team gets this dark and dismal.